The Ziglar Show, number 296. What does desire require? We're going to hear 3 short clips from Zig Ziglar today and discuss 3 requirements for successfully achieving your desires. I'm your host, Kevin Miller. My co-host today is Ziglar CEO and proud son, Tom Ziglar, and we are broadcasting live on Facebook at ZiglarShow.com. Before we dive into today's clips and topics, I want to thank you all for listening to The Ziglar Show and just express gratitude to all of you who are striving to get more inspiration and motivation into your lives. Today's December 1st, and for the month of November, there were 222,819 downloads of The Ziglar Show. Today, we're sitting at number 20 in all business podcasts in iTunes. I'd like to ask a favor of you. If Zig impacted your life, and if you're enjoying the show, will you give us a review in iTunes? A few new reviews will bump us up in the rankings. It'll help more people get exposure to the benefits from the Ziglar message. Real quick here, Christmas specials. We have some incredible Christmas packages at Ziglar. Tom will mention a little bit more here shortly, but if you go to Ziglar.com/Christmas 2014, Christmas 2014. You can see what is happening there. We just launched those this last Friday and have had a lot of people taking advantage of that. So Ziglar.com/Christmas 2014. Give you a chance to give a gift that will inspire and motivate a life, and as we're going to discuss, help others and yourself successfully achieve desires. Okay, we're going to dive into clip number 1 from Zig and then talk about it with Tom. And again, those of you who are live with us at ZiglarShow.com, we're here broadcasting live on Facebook. Tom and I are watching the comments, and we'll be honored to hear your thoughts on what desire requires. Okay, so here then I bring you Mr. Ziglar.
I'm Zig Ziglar with your encouraging word for the day. John Jones was in New York City. He wanted to go to Boston. He went out to the airport, bought a ticket, and on the way down to the gate, he stopped and saw a pair of scales on which he could weigh. He stepped on the scales, inserted his coin, and down came his fortune. Your name is John Jones. You weigh 185 pounds. You're going to catch the 220 to Boston. Well, that really amazed him, because how did those scales know all of those things? So he said, hey, it must be some kind of a trick. He stepped back up on the scale, pulled his hat down over his eyes and ears, inserted his coin, down came his fortune. Your name is still John Jones. You still weigh 185 pounds, and you're still going to catch the 220 to Boston. Well, this really got to him. He decided somebody's trying to play a trick on him. He went into the men's room, changed clothes, came back out, stepped back up on the scales, inserted his coin, down came his fortune. Your name is still John Jones. You still weigh 185 pounds, but you just missed the 220 to Boston. Now, folks, you know, there are a lot of folks who start on a journey, and then they, for whatever reason, fool around and miss the 220 to Boston, which is the train to success in life. Now, a lot of people, you know, start something and then they stop it. What I'm encouraging you to do is not only get busy so you'll catch the 220, but stay on it until you get there. Successful people are those who persevere. They hang in there. So hang in there, keep working, keep optimistic, and I'll see you at the top.
All right, Tom, I know that's a story that you know well, but how often do we experience that ourselves and hear that from other people, that we fool around or we just get distracted with the reality of life?
Right. I tell you what, Kevin, this is the time of year when that story resonates most of all, because it's December, you know, we're closing off the year and we're excited about the family time, the holidays, the Christmas season. And then we're looking forward to 2015, where we're thinking about the goals that we're going to set, you know, the things that we're going to accomplish. And we kind of look back in the past and go, oh, man, I meant to do that, but I never did it. And then we look in the future and we go, I'm going to write that down. And so when we actually use that story in an illustration, we relate it to goal setting. And the idea is that there's this dream and this goal that we all want to achieve. And we know we want to go there, right? We want to go to Boston. But for whatever reason, we write it down and then we get preoccupied with life. And so the encouragement in that story is simply this, is that when you have a worthy dream, goal, or objective that you want to accomplish, what you want to do is take the time to write it down in detail and then make the commitment and have the discipline to revisit that every single day. If you work on a goal, even for just 30 minutes or 30 seconds a day, just refreshing your mind, what am I going to do today to get closer? Then those dreams become reality. Then you don't get distracted by the things in life. And Dad had this quote. He said this. He said, most people miss success because they trade what they want most for what they want now. And so, to me, when I think of the story, I think of this. When a distraction comes in, I ask myself, will paying attention to that take me closer to or further from my goal?
So let's say on this number one, desire, as you said, requires commitment. Desire requires commitment. So for those of you watching and listening, number one, but you also even attested to just conceptualizing it, making it real. I love that, writing it down, which that's what Ziglar is so well known for, making it real, getting serious about it.
Yeah, and you know, we teach goal setting in a very specifics, but for everybody listening, there's really only three things that goal achievers have in common. They write it down in detail, they work on it every day, and they have an accountability partner. Right? And so when we have this idea of desire takes commitment, man, those are the three commitments you got to have. You write it down in detail, you work through it. The second one is you work on it every day or as often as possible. Some goals don't require you to work on it every day, but they do require you to revisit it at least once a week, even if for a moment, so you can keep the idea, the benefits, the passion alive in your mind. And the third, if it's really worthwhile achieving, get an accountability partner. Tell your spouse, tell somebody at work, tell a close friend, hey, this is what I'm going for.
Okay, well, we're going to hit the next part here, part number two, another clip from Zig. But, Tom, I'm going to jump in an impromptu way here, because you mentioned accountability, and I really think that's what I'm most excited about these Christmas packages. So, shameless self-promotion of the Ziglar Christmas packages here right now. I just like that part. It's some of the classic materials from Ziglar, but it is matched then with live webcasts that you're doing with people, with a group. We're going to have a live Facebook page for them. So there's accountability and personal leadership from you in digesting these materials, and then you get to walk with some other people who have become a part of this community as well. So I love the accountability of those Christmas packages, which again are at Ziglar.com/Christmas 2014. Tom, I mean, you're going to be literally leading those webcasts live with the people who have purchased those packages.
Right. So on the personal development side, if in the Goal Summit, if you choose that package, you're going to have 3 webcasts. One of them is going to be on building the winning relationships, because if we're going to achieve all that life has to offer, we've got to have, you know, family and friends and teammates and coworkers helping us get there. And the way that happens is we build a relationship on the right kind of foundation. We understand what motivates others. We understand the components of a good relationship. And then, of course, we got to be the right kind of person, too. So there's going to be one webcast, you know, building the best you. It's a personal development side. Dad used to say this. He made it real simple. You can take all the right skills and put it on the wrong person, and it won't really matter, right? So how do you become the right person? And the third one, which is the strategy, which is the actual goal-setting system, which is the specific 7-step process that we have. So that's just one of the packages. If you're looking to next year as the year where it's going to be your best year ever, a year where you do things that you've never done before, if you build yourself, if you build your relationships, and you have a specific strategy on how to get to where you want to go, that can be the most helpful thing for you.
Okay, and the beauty of live broadcasting is that you got to roll with the punches here. And I just let the cat out of the bag with our Goal Summit, which is for 2015, our packages, which we actually haven't even made live yet. So those of you guys, you just got a sneak preview for that. And I just jumped on it when you said accountability. Our Christmas packages at Ziglar.com/Christmas 2014 don't have those webcasts, but you'll be seeing the Goal Summit packages as a part of those. Either way, you're going to get some great stuff there. Thanks for rolling with that one, Tom. I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, it's the 12 days of Christmas, I guess, and they got a sneak preview on 10, 11, and 12.
There you go. All right. Well, hey, so we're going to jump in on this aspect of what does desire require. Okay, so we just hit desire requires commitment. Here's part two. Let's let Zig lead us off.
This is Zig Ziglar with your encouraging word for the day. If please. And I know you heard the one about the two fleas at the bottom of the hill, and one of them says, well, do we walk or take a dog? Well, anyhow, you train fleas by putting them in a jar. You put the lid on the jar, and the fleas will start jumping. They'll jump up, and they'll hit the top over and over and over again. And then you will notice something kind of interesting. If you take the top off of the jar, they will continue to jump, but they will not jump out of the jar because, you see, they've been conditioned to jump only so high. And when they've been conditioned to jump so high, that's as high as they can do. You know, a lot of people are that way. They start out in life to climb the mountain, to write the book, to break the record, to do something significant. But along the way, they bump their head or they stub their toe, and they become what I call a SNIOP, spelled S-N-I-O-P. They're susceptible to the negative influence of other people. So what is a flea trainer? A flea trainer is one who jumps out of the jar. A flea trainer understands very clearly that you don't tell people where to get off. You tell them and show them how to get on. A flea trainer realizes that what they do is up to them, and they refuse to be influenced by the negative people of life. When you take the flea trainer approach, I will see you. And yes, I really do mean you. Not just at the top. Hey, I'm going to see you over the top.
All right, so that's our part two. We still got one more Ziglar clip coming up, but that one right there, Tom, I know you know that story like the back of your hand, and it is and always has been dramatically relevant in looking at I like to say, the real and perceived obstacles that we put before us, between us and our desires.
Yeah. You know, on the bookshelf behind me, let me maybe see if I can focus this camera a little bit. There's a book back there that Dad wrote. It was his first book. It's called Biscuits, Fleas, and Pump Handles. So that talk, the flea trainer story, that was the original title of that book, which became See You at the Top. So when you think about flea training, what I always walk away with is this. We cannot let our circumstances determine our attitude. We have to own our attitude ourselves. When you look at the world out there, literally over 70% of the world lets circumstances control their attitude. In other words, that SNIOP syndrome, susceptible to the negative influence of other people, that's the world's condition. When we take ownership of our own attitude and we decide, hey, no matter what's going on out there, I'm going to believe in certain things, I'm going to do certain things, then we've got a head start. We are already outrunning 70% of the population. So our race to excellence isn't even that difficult because so many people have bought into the fact that everybody else controls the way they think about themselves. So a flea trainer makes that decision. I can jump out of the jar. I can do more than I've ever done. Why not do one more? Why not go the extra mile? Why not add a little bit extra? Why not stay 5 more minutes? Why not spend a little bit more time with that person who I'm so important to me? You know, why not get a little bit earlier? Why not? You get this idea? A little bit extra. When we develop that little bit extra attitude, everything changes.
Well, so let me ask you a question, Tom, on that, because it talks about, the negative influence of others. And I know there are plenty of people that, especially when they express a desire, they want something more, they want to achieve something more, it can somewhat, they can get some negative feedback from other people, literally. It can be threatening to those around them, even close friends and family, and they can get literal negative feedback. But what do you think about the aspect, if we put in there also just limited expectations? I hear that from parents even. It may not be actual negative influences to their kids or friends that don't give a negative comment to their friend about something they want to achieve, but they just have limited expectations, and that goes back to the fleas only jumping so high that can be harmful, and it's a little more subversive maybe.
Right, and this is something I learned, and Dad, I don't know where I got the study from. I think Dad shared it with me. And it has to do with kids, and I apply it to all of life. And it works like this. they studied these kids, and they took two groups of kids, and one group of kids, they started working them through math problems. And they started off really easy, and they got harder and harder and harder, and they gave them like a new test every time. And every time they gave them a test, with the easy ones, they'd get them all right. And they would tell this group of kids, oh, you're so smart, you're so smart. Then they give them the next test, you're so smart, you're so smart. Then they give them the next test, you're so smart, you're so smart. And eventually the problems got so hard that the kids couldn't answer, right? They took another set of kids, they gave them the same test, and after they finished it, they kept saying, oh, you worked so hard, so hard. Thank you for working so hard at that. Well, here's the amazing thing. The kids that they told were smart, they gave up when the questions got hard. The kids that they told, oh, you worked so hard, they kept working at it. And they actually answered harder and harder questions, even though it took them more and more time. But you see, they were rewarded for their behavior of working hard, and not with something that they were born with a natural inclination. And so what happens in life is we tend to compliment our kids and others around them for what they're born with rather than what they work on. And so what we want to do is we want to look at our own mindsets and our qualities, and we're going to say, you know what, I'm going to focus on the behaviors that I can control, which is discipline and hard work and perseverance and integrity and honesty and those kind of things. And so I encourage everybody listening, look at your friends and your circle of influence and ask yourself this. Are they complimenting you and reinforcing the behaviors that you have control over? Or are they limiting you based on the pre-existing conditions that you may have brought to the table that you have no control over? I mean, why would you tell somebody who's got one leg, oh man, you're the slowest person in the room? Right? To me, they might have more perseverance, more character than anybody in the room because they made it on time, even though it took them an extra 30 minutes to get there because of the preparation. So differentiate in your mind the people you're around, the ones who compliment you on the character qualities you can control, and the ones who discard you because you're too tall, you're too short, nobody has done that, blah, 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 blah.
Well, and there's multiple lessons that we could pull out of that one. But if we say as an umbrella statement for that aspect, number 2, desire requires us to increase our expectations of ourselves, which so often means not only giving ourselves good self-talk, but making sure that we are with other people who are going to do that too and not give us the opposite is dramatic. Well, based on that, part 2 of that piece of it, we'll say part 3 for the show here, but the next piece of that, training fleas. This is another clip that we'll play here from Zig and then talk about that.
I'm Zig Ziglar with a follow-up encouraging word about flea training. Roger Bannister was one of the great flea trainers of all time. You might remember the name. He was the first one to break the barrier in the 4-minute mile. For years and years, athletes had been saying, I'm going to do it. I'm going to break the 4-minute. It simply will not take that. Of others, he developed a plan of action. He figured his strides were. He knew how many he would have to take to run a 440, then an 880, and then on to the full mile. He hired a couple of guys to be his lead men, and they set the pace for him for 3 quarters, and then Roger Bannister gave it all he had, and he broke the barrier. Now, let me emphasize the point. It was not a physiological barrier. It was a psychological barrier. Because when Bannister broke the barrier, then other people started saying, hey, if he can, I can. And today we've had hundreds of young men to break that 4-minute. Follow the positive examples, and if you do, I will see you at the top.
Okay, well, I love that one too, because talk about another, just like the fleas. I mean, this was a literal, perceived obstacle, a limitation that then was done away with, and it just opened the doors wide open. I mean, Tom, I know you see that in working with people right there in Ziglar offices and then talking to millions worldwide. You see that happen over and over. It's something you strive for. Can we just get them just an inch past that perceived obstacle, and then they'll be free?
That's right. And one of the things I have is I call it an "Are you kidding me?" And this is what I see really frequently. Somebody looks at the biggest trauma they've ever been through in their life, and they use that as the reason why they can't be successful, right? And I'm like, are you kidding me? The trauma that you've been through, the mountain you've had to overcome, the struggles you've had to persevere through are the very reasons that you can be used in this area. It's the way God's going to use you in a way you never even imagined. And the simple story of that is I was working with the guy. He was in real estate, and the real estate market, as everybody knows, it collapsed 5 or 6 years ago, and he and his wife were together probably earning $500,000 in income, and it went down to about 10% of that. Well, that financial stress pretty much wiped them out and almost cost them their marriage. You know, they had to sell things, and they went through all kinds of challenges. And he sent me a long email, and it's basically said, hey, you know, I'm sticking in this real estate thing, but I don't know if I'm worthy to sell real estate anymore because of all the trouble I've been through. And so I wrote him back, and we had a call, and on the call I said, are you kidding me? And he said, what do you mean? And I said, well, tell me something. You're still in real estate. He said, yeah. I said, most of the people who come to you, why are they coming to you? And he said, what do you mean? I said, well, are they going through the same thing you went through? Are they downsizing because of, you know, economic stress? And he said, absolutely. I said, who better than you, with all of your expertise, been in the fire, who better than you to basically shepherd them through this process, because it's so tough. You are perfectly positioned. And it's like I could feel the light switch go on in his head. It wasn't, Kevin, it wasn't 2 weeks later when he sent a long email, about 10 pages long, describing how he'd had this, he called this lady, and she was desperate, and, you know, her and her husband were going through a divorce, and they were fighting over the house, and they were just going to let it go back to the bank. And he was able to mend a relationship between the two to allow them to sell this house, because he entered the conversation with this, hey, I know a little bit about what you're going through. Let me help. And so when people get that idea of, you know, are you kidding me? Man, the perception that you have of why you shouldn't do it might be the very reason you're perfect to do it.
Well, I love that, Tom. And one thing I want to pull out of that, and this is the last point that we can hit here, and then if you want to give us a couple words just about these Christmas packages again. But and in this analogy that your dad so eloquently used, where Roger Bannister, you know, came under the 4-minute mile, then all these other people achieve that as well, and they continue to today. I love the reality that as hard as it sometimes is to overcome those expectations that we have, negative influence of others, if we will do it, if we will persevere and achieve something, it will give permission to so many more people to do that as well, whether that's your spouse, your kids, friends, family. It's a gift. Now, you may have to withstand some of their criticism to do it, but then it's a reality that it gives them permission, and it's like what, Tom? The ripple effect, the butterfly effect.
Yeah. Give yourself permission. You'll be pleasantly surprised every time you give yourself permission. The doors that open up, and I'm on a quest right now. I started working out again a few weeks ago after a long layoff, and I was like, man, I don't even know if I can do 5 push-ups. But instead of saying, you know what, I can never be in the shape I was, why even bother, what I decided to do is to add a push-up a day. A push-up a day. Oh my gosh. And I'm doing some other things too, but adding a push-up a day, it's like I'm looking back and I'm like, I'm almost to 20, Kevin. Can you believe it? I could do 20 push-ups without stopping. I mean, if you were to look at me, shocked, right? But 3 months from now, where will I be? I mean, I'm sure I won't be able to do this for the rest of my life and do 5,000 push-ups in a row. But the point is that we have this perception of we can't do it, why bother? When the reality is, if we just take that first step and do a little bit more every single day, that little bit of extra, everything changes.
Absolutely. Well, hey, we know that, so again, shameless self-promotion here. We want you to help yourself do these things, help others do that. And a great way to give a great gift. Tom, any last word on the Christmas packages that, again, are at Ziglar.com/Christmas 2014? It gives you the opportunity to give a gift that embodies just what we're talking about here.
Yep, absolutely. You know, the packages we have, if we have 7 of these packages, and they're at all different price points, anywhere from 48% to 66% off. These are the classic materials that Dad has done. A couple of them that I'm extremely excited about is we have his How to Stay Motivated CD series, which is the #1 selling program he's ever had. 19 CDs, over 21 hours. It's normally $269. It's only $129. I love that one because it's everything about building the right person and building the right relationships and the goal-setting strategy. The other one that I love is the Heart package, and this is the books that we have, and it's 3 of Dad's books: Conversations with My Dog, Success for Dummies, and Zig the Autobiography. There's 3 great stocking stuffers here. 3 different gifts you can give. If you bought them all separate, it'd be $58, but you can get all 3 books for $29. Those 2 packages are fantastic, but my personal favorite is our Christmas package on faith, and that's because Dad's daily devotional is in it. And every day, I start off my day, I love it, I start off my day reading the devotional for the day, and it combines Dad's favorite quote in Scripture with the motivational message. And it's just a time of reflection. It only takes about 3 or 4 minutes to read the page. And every time I go through this, it's like something new is there. So there's a CD series on Proverbs there as well. And his book, God's Way is Still the Best Way. That is a great package if you want to grow spiritually in the faith aspect. There's more on the Christmas specials, but we don't have time for all that. Just go and check it out at Ziglar.com, and you'll see them there.
All right. Well, hey, I'm going to wrap us up there. Again, what does desire require? We hit #1, desire requires commitment. #2, desire requires us to increase our expectations of ourselves, and a subset of that is to conceptualize, to get it down, write it down on paper, make it real. The third thing, desire requires intolerance of limitations, and I like to say, again, those real and perceived limitations, because many of them are not literal. They can be overcome. Thank you all for tuning in. Again, this is our live show, but it's our podcast, so this will go into iTunes. So we'll be back with you next week, December 8th at 1 p.m. Central Time, live at ZiglarShow.com. You can join us there. This is then what is posted into our podcast, which many of you listen to in iTunes. Again, I would be incredibly grateful if you've had benefit from the Ziglar message and from the show here to give us a review. That helps our exposure increase to other people. Tom, brother, thank you as always, everyone. We will be back. Hope you're having the beginning of an incredibly blessed and Merry Christmas.